There's a specific kind of heartbreak in a job search. The interview that went well, the conversation that flowed, the interviewer who smiled and said, "We'll be in touch," and then silence. Today, I'm going to show you the 5 questions where offers and silence actually gets decided. These are not the questions you think are most important, the ones that are actually very important. Hi, I'm Jules, Senior Business Analyst over a decade in finance and fintech, and founder of Sources HQ. I've sat on both sides of the interview table, and here's what I've learned from the hiring side. The questions that decide the outcome are almost never the ones candidates prepare for. Candidates rehearse, tell me about yourself, they perfect their strengths and weakness answers, but the decisions get made on a different set of questions entirely. The ones that test whether you think like a career professional or a business analyst in real time. Those 5 questions are what this video is all about. For each of the 5 questions, I'll give you what it is actually testing, why most candidates fail it without ever realizing they failed it, and what a winning answer actually sounds like. Stay to the end because question 5 is the one where I've seen the most offers won and lost, and it is the one almost nobody prepares for. Here's question 1. Walk me through how you would approach a project where the business problem is not clearly defined. This is the ambiguity test. It is where interviews quietly end for candidates who only know how to execute. The failing answer sounds organized but says nothing. Here it is. I'll gather requirements, speak to stakeholders, and document everything clearly. This is a list of activities, not an approach. The winning answer demonstrates a method for creating clarity. Here it is. Before gathering any requirements, I would work to define the problem itself. I'll ask the sponsor, what does success look like in 6 months? And what happens if we do nothing? Those 2 questions usually reveal whether we're solving the right problem at all. Only then will I move into structured elicitation because requirements gathered against the wrong problem are worse than no requirements. Here are the difference. The first answer executes, the second answer thinks. Offers go to those who can think. Question 2. Tell me about the time the requirements you gathered turned out to be wrong. This is the ownership test. I have seen candidates panic here because admitting error feels somewhat dangerous. So they dodge and they give this answer. I always validate my requirements thoroughly, so this has not really happened to me. This answer fails twice. It is almost certainly untrue, and it signals you cannot talk honestly about mistakes, which means you will hide them on the job as well. The winning answer owns it and shows the correction system. Here it is. Early in the payments project, I documented the requirement based on what the stakeholder told me without validating it against the actual process data. In UAT, we discovered the process worked differently in one region. I owned it, traced how it got through, and introduced a validation step where every critical requirement gets checked against system data, not just stakeholder memory. That step caught 2 more discrepancies before go live. A mistake plus a system change. That is what senior looks like. Here's question 3. 2 senior stakeholders give you directly conflicting requirements. What do you do? This is the politics test. The failing answer picks a side or escalates immediately. For instance, I'll take it to my manager to decide. Escalating first tells the interviewer you cannot hold tension. And a BA who cannot hold tension between stakeholders is a BA someone else has to manage. Here's the winning answer. First, I would make sure the conflict is real. Often, 2 stakeholders use different words for compatible needs. I would map both requirements against the business objective and then bring them together with a shared goal in front of us because it changes the conversation from my requirement versus yours into what serves the outcome. If it is genuinely reconcilable, I would frame the trade-off in business terms, cost, risk, and time, and take that framing to the decision owner. I bring them a decision to make, not a fight to referee. Quick pause. The free interview preparation worksheet at Sources HQ has a structured template for preparing exactly this kind of answers. Link is below. 2 questions left, and the last one is the big one. Question 4. How do you know when requirements are done? This sounds simple. It's a trap for anyone who has memorized the vocabulary without leaving the work. Here's the wrong answer. When the stakeholders have signed off. Sign off is an event. It's not an evidence of completeness. Every experienced interviewer knows projects that failed with a full set of signatures. Now, here's my winning answer. Sign-off is important, but I use 3 checks before I ever get there. 1, every requirement traces to a business objective. If it does not, why is it there? 2, every requirement is testable. If we cannot define what proves it is met, it is not a requirement. It is a wish. 3, the edge cases have been worked. Not just the happy path. What happens when the data is missing? When the user does the unexpected? When volume spikes? When those 3 checks pass, sign-up becomes a confirmation, not a leap of faith. Traceable, testable, edge cases worked, 3 words that signal you had actually done this work. And question 5, what questions do you have for us? I've seen candidates here at this point think the interview is over. It is not. This is the last scored question and the only one where you control the material entirely. Here's the wrong answers I've seen. What are the next steps? What is the culture like? Or worst of all, no, I think you've covered everything. The last one tells the interviewer you were receiving the conversation, not necessarily analyzing them. The winning move is a question built from something said earlier in the interview. For instance, you mentioned the team is midway through a core system migration. What does success look like for the BA function specifically within that migration? This question does something no rehearsed answer can do. It proves you were analyzing the role in real time, which is literally the job. An interviewer forgets perfect answers within a day. They remember the candidate whose final question made them think. In one of my interviews, I had asked the HR this question: what does career progression look like for this role? Using your last promotion as a reference. That question gave the answer that determined if the company was a right fit in the first place. The pattern I've seen across all 5 is that offers go to the candidate who demonstrates critical thinking inside the interview itself. If you're transitioning into business analysis, the 4A program builds exactly this: the thinking, the positioning, and the interview preparation to walk in ready. If you're an experienced business analyst, the Career Accelerator includes mock interviews using these exact questions, with feedback tailored to your target roles. Both at Sources HQ, links are below. If this helped, hit like and subscribe. Next week, the 8 behavioral questions almost every BA gets wrong and what to say instead. That one goes live next Friday. I'm Jules Ijere, and this is Sources HQ. Silence after an interview is not about you, but an offer is something you can always prepare for.